One of our favorite family movies at home is A League of Their Own, starring Tom Hanks. It's a movie with infinite quotable lines, and it paints a portrait of American society during World War II. When all of the brave American men went off to war to literally save the fate of the world. The movie tells the story of innovative and entrepreneurial men, and mostly women, who stepped forward into the foreground to save the American spirit. And the greatest emblem of American spirit is the greatest game ever invented, and that game is baseball. I carried that movie with me last week in Israel because the movie features in my mind the most iconic ribbon cutting scene at the end of the film at the Hall of Fame. The ribbon cutting is meant to capture, to celebrate, to commemorate the accomplishment of that short-lived women's baseball league. And if you had asked me before I left for Israel what would be the most emotional moment of the trip, I would have told you that it would be the ribbon cutting ceremony in Kibbutz Ruchama, as we marked the construction and completion of the regional bike park and skate park for all of the youth in the region of the Otef, in the area surrounding Gaza Strip. Flanked by VBS leadership of President Eric Kingsley, past President Eileen Berman, our chair of the Israel Relationship Committee, Rich Robin, our senior director of development, Judy Feldman, our entire VBS Israel mission, and our shared VBS JFED LA dual representative, Carol Karansky. I recited Shechianu and cut the ribbon while surrounded by so many beautiful children from Kibbutz Ruchama and other kibbutzim that were enjoying the bike park. And while I know that there's no crying in baseball, for me at least, there's always crying in Israel. And that moment, my tears in Ruchama were tears of joy and pride. It's difficult to summarize a 7-day trip like this. More than any synagogue community I know of in the country, we have now sent our 4th VBS mission to Israel since October 7th. No other synagogue has sent 4. And the reason I know that that's true is I have publicly stated that in many different forums, and nobody has ever raised their hand to correct me up until this point. So congratulations, VBS has sent the most delegations to Israel since October 7th. And I'm proud that so many people sitting in the sanctuary right now have walked the streets of Jerusalem and the paths of Kibbutz Ruchama with me. But if you haven't been on a mission with me, the days begin very early. We often leave the hotel around 7:15 a.m. and don't return back until well after dark. We put in full days of learning, volunteering, bearing witness, and bringing support. We visit countless organizations ranging from such VBS Israel relationship partners as Kibbutz Ruchama, Yamin Ord, the Michael Levin Lone Soldier Center, and Leket, as well as new organizations in Kiryat Shmona and the Golan Heights. After 7 productive days of our mission, a couple of days to decompress and speak at the Anu Museum at Tel Aviv University, I always return back to LA, immediately back to this campus, and well-intentioned staff and congregants walk up to me and say, "Rabbi, after all of that, how was Israel?" And after all of the people we've encountered and stories we've heard, after standing at the border of Lebanon and Syria and Gaza, after the group of 37 individuals forged together into a cohesive unit, after all of that, Rabbi, how was Israel? How can I process and sum it up for somebody, for this well-intentioned soul? How was Israel? So I always respond, great. Israel was great. Today, I think you deserve a reflection a little bit deeper than Israel was great. Each and every trip maintains its own theme. In December of 2023, we really got our hands dirty volunteering to help the soldiers and the war effort. supporting the hostage families, and helping with the agricultural needs of the kibbutzim down south. Then in June 2024 and January 2025, we began to build relationships with organizations and delved deeper into the individual testimonials of October 7th and focused on creating lasting relationships with Israelis. This past mission, in January 2026, with all of the living hostages, thank God, released from captivity in Gaza, and only one hostage remaining, may Ran Gvili be released immediately, we traveled south and celebrated our relationships with Ruchama, still showed support for Yamin Ord, Michael Levin Lone Soldier Center, and Leket, but for the first time in 2.5 years, we traveled up north to the Galilee and the Golan Heights. We spent 2.5 days in the beautiful north of Israel, visiting Kiryat Shmona, Kibbutz Menara, Kibbutz Mizgav Am. We spent time in Katzrin. We spent a day with the Druze community and stood at the soccer field in Migdal Shams, where 12 beautiful Druze children were murdered by a Hezbollah rocket. And we heard firsthand accounts from members and leaders of the Druze community about how much pride and how much privilege they felt to be Israeli citizens and enjoy the rights as Israeli citizens, unlike their brothers and sisters trapped in Syria and Lebanon. We did all of this, and friends, we never once saw another tour bus in the north. People there welcomed us with open arms to show us their experience of the war and their continued anxiety over borders which they believe are not completely quiet. They are not convinced that the war is yet over. They're not certain that anybody remembers the northern communities at all. For 2.5 years, the missions have yielded stories about tragedy and heroics. We've all heard stories about brave soldiers who left home to literally save the world, to battle in Gaza or Lebanon or Syria, to root out terrorists collectively threatening Western civilization. We've all heard stories of the courageous pilots who flew missions over Iran. We've all heard about the tragedy of the fallen soldiers. All of their names and some of their final words have been shared from this bima at some of our most special moments during the year. We've heard about the death and destruction Hamas wreaked on the border communities of October 7th, the savage sexual violence, the brutal murder, and the inhumane stealing of human lives. Yet this time, a new, distinct theme emerged for this trip. A new theme emerged that I was not expecting. Our people's survival during this war didn't just depend on the heroic strength of the IDF and its soldiers. Our people's survival depended on the heroic courage of the Israeli family unit. I had not yet heard stories about the strength required by wives of soldiers who were called away to evacuate their homes and move their children across the country by themselves. I hadn't yet heard about the courage required by children to walk into a new school of strangers and not know if they were enrolled in class there for a week, a month, or several years. I hadn't yet heard about older veterans of units who showed up with their families to do dishes and give baths to children of exhausted moms who desperately needed a night off. These are the stories we heard on this trip. And while all of it was new, none of it should be surprising. Jews have always relied on the family unit as the building block of the foundation of our tradition. After all, we all emanate from the singular collective family tree of Bnei Yisrael as the children of Israel, the children of Jacob. It's Pharaoh in the Torah last week who looks at us and recasts us from a nation to a people. But the Torah shows us that it is a family again that steps forward into the foreground of our narrative to help lead us out of Egypt in the form of Miriam, Aaron, and Moses. There's so many family stories we still don't know of soldiers who served in reserve duty for more than 400 days. Ordinary families pulled together to try to sustain businesses, to fight for loans, to fight to have debts forgiven. Families pulled together to keep sanity in the face of endless sirens and bombing. Families who now have to pull together to face the challenges of post-traumatic stress at home, living in civilian life. This trip taught me that each of the mothers and the wives of the home front are absolutely heroes. We can analyze these stories endlessly and stand in awe of their character and conviction for one another. Or we can ask, from where is such a power of belief derived? In his academic article, The Genealogy of Moses and Aaron, Rabbi Dr. Tzvi Ron notes that while we learned last week in Parshat Shemot the origin of Moses' parents, Vayelech ish mi beit Levi vayikach et bat Levi, a man of the house of Levi went and took a woman of Levi. Moses' parents still remain unnamed as man and woman. Why? It's only in this week's Parshat Vayera that Moses changes his attitude from messenger of God and finally commits to be the leader of his brothers and sisters, as the shaliach, as the messenger of the children of Israel. And by viewing himself as part of the family, it is this week that we learn the names of his parents. This week the story is retold again with personal names, not as a legend, but in the form of a family tree in which Moses belongs. Vaikach Amram et Yochevet, dadato lo liisha. Amram took his wife Yochevet. This is our story. It's always been. The Jewish tradition requires that each of us commit to other Jews, not in some voyeuristic sense, not in some legendary sense, not as professional leaders, but rather to see each and every Jew as our brother and sister, to see Jews everywhere as our family. That's why it's so important for me that the relationship between VBS and Ruchama grow into more than just donor and recipient. I pray that it grows into family, that we visit them as a community and become familiar there, that they send representatives to us, as they did this past year for Rosh Hashanah, that we enjoy pen pal relationships. And this year, for the first time, our Grinberg Passport to Israel, group of sixth graders from our day school, will get to know their counterparts in the school in Kibbutz Ruchama and visit them on their upcoming trip to Israel as well. This week, we not only celebrate the building blocks of family in Israel, we do it right here. It's so meaningful to return to VBS today and celebrate two incredible families in our community, both of whom are repeat customers on the VBS Israel missions, the Linharts and the Howards. After blessing Jake and Sam at the Torah before their wedding, now they return, and I'll bless their beautiful daughter and announce her Hebrew name. She's been removed from the sanctuary, am I right? It's the great irony, yeah. There's been a population explosion in the Linhart family, and it's not just great news for the Linharts, it's great news for the entirety of the Jewish people. Mazel tov to all of you. And anybody who knows Alan and Jane and Scott and Marcy knows that the traditions of the Howard family represent a love of family, a love of VBS, and a love of Israel. Today we remember the patriarch Leo Howard. May his memory always be a blessing. Leo served as an author of their family values. Each of us fashions our own family, and we do it within the framework of our great extended family tradition. Crafting a healthy family in challenging times of peace and prosperity is not easy. Crafting a healthy family during a period of uncertainty and war is heroic and miraculous. A League of Their Own teaches us that when our brave American soldiers set off to save the world, heroes at home tried to safeguard the critical elements of our culture, what keeps America unique. This past 2.5 years of war and this past VBS mission to Israel taught me that when brave Israeli soldiers set off to save Israel and indeed the world, they were heroes at home who also safeguarded the most critical element of all, what keeps us tethered to our tradition, what keeps us bound to one another, what keeps us uniquely poised for a bright tomorrow, our family. May God watch over and protect the state of Israel. May God continue to bless Jewish families everywhere. And let us say, Amen. Amen.